Well, the dust has finally settled on NFL free agency. It's not over yet, but we got players all over the place. And are they fantasy relevant still? Hey, what's going on, guys? Jake Fantasy Headliners coming at you next episode here, talking about some people in some new places. We got players all over the place. I mean, they're everywhere. And I'm sure by now you know mostly where they've landed. And everybody and their mother is talking about their, how relevant they are. But listen, I'd like to think that I'd take a little bit different take at this at some people. So let's talk about it. Let's interact a little bit. Make sure you guys are commenting down below. Let me know if you feel the same way I do. If you feel a different way than I do, that's cool. I don't know everything. Y'all have opinions too. I'm open to hearing them. So by all means, make sure you're commenting below, hitting that like button for me. We're going to go ahead and get started right off, though, with the first name on the list. I put him right there so you guys kind of use it as a cheat sheet. Remember those like cheat sheets in school? Yeah, never mind. Anyways, I put him up there on the screen so you know what's coming up. But listen, let's talk about Kirk Cousins, right? Kirk Cousins is now a Minnesota Viking. And that kind of intrigues me a little bit. Kirk Cousins, somebody who in Washington here the past few years has averaged, over 4,000 yards passing, right around 4,427 touchdowns. Yes, he had Pierre Garçon, Deshaun Jackson, Jamison Crowder, Jordan Reed during that time. But listen, Minnesota is a different animal. All right, we don't even know exactly what all Minnesota can be because Dalvin Cook got hurt so early last year. Listen, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, bona fide studs. I would take them almost any day over a Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson. These two are both playmakers, possession receivers, capable of getting you first downs and capable of beating you deep. And let's just say that Mr. Kyle Rudolph may be a little bit more fantasy relevant also. Look what Case Keenum was able to do last year with this roster, and that was mostly without Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, I believe, is probably going to be coming in this draft a little overrated just because of the injury. But listen, he is a workhorse. He's going to get a ton of work. Jerick McKinnon out of town. Dalvin Cook's going to get a huge workload. Expect Latavius Murray to be, worked in there every once in a while. But this offense as a whole, especially with Kirk Cousins, is disgustingly sick in a good way. Like, they're really good. And Kirk Cousins is going to be a fantasy stud. Top 10 for me, no doubt. I'm probably going to have him ranked right around the 6-7 area, right around in there. But listen, if you have a chance to grab Kirk Cousins, he's going to have a huge year in a great offense, and it's going to be fun to watch. All right, let's get to the next name on the list now. Jerick McKinnon, former Viking Jerick McKinnon, now at home in the Bay, where he is the number one running back option. I know. If you've watched my other videos, you understand that I got a little bit of a thing for Jerick McKinnon this year. When it comes to fantasy football, Jerick McKinnon may be a gold mine for you this year. Is he a big bruising back? No, he's not. But does he get the credit he deserves? I don't think so. I think he was kind of written off as a pass-catching back because of his work in Minnesota. And yeah, his yards per carry were down a little bit, right around 3.4, but he's capable. He can take the big hit. He can get back up, and he's a burner. I mean, the dude's got wheels. So listen, as the number one running option in San Francisco on a Kyle Shanahan-led offense is scary. Just remember what Shanahan did with Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman in Atlanta. It's the same type of thing. He's liked McKinnon since he was in college. He wanted him then. He couldn't get him, but now he's got the chance to grab him and to use him. I expect Jerick McKinnon to get a huge workload. Listen, Carlos Hyde last year had 240 rush attempts and 88 targets out of the backfield. Now, do I think McKinnon's going to see that? No, probably not. But you know what? The targets are probably going to be there. The carries may be a little bit less, right around the 200 total rushing attempts size. But you know what? The targets are where you're going to make a ton of money on McKinnon. That's his strong suit. And look at what Freeman did in Atlanta. His first year in Atlanta, he was kind of like, written off. Second year under Kyle Shanahan, the dude took off and exploded. I expect a lot of the same for Jerick McKinnon. And if he can catch you right around 60 balls this year, you're going to be pretty happy with the value you got him at. So if you have a chance to grab Jerick McKinnon, great situation for him in San Diego. By all means, draft him with confidence. I have a feeling he's probably going to be somewhere in that top 10 to 15 range, especially in PPR leagues, so be looking out for him. Jerick McKinnon's a good buy this year. Jarvis Landry. That's who we're going to next. Juice, and everybody's seen the stats on him too. Quickest receiver ever to 400 catches. And he is. He is a great receiver. Not much of a big play guy, possession-style receiver, get you the first downs, get you a touchdown every once in a while, but let's be realistic, okay? Let's be realistic. There's a ton of hype around the Browns. I'm talking like a ton of hype. Like, I'm excited to watch the Browns. That's a lot of hype, you know what I mean? So let's not get overhyped, though. And just because we see all these names that are on the Browns roster does not mean they're going to produce the same stats that they did at their previous teams, right? Jarvis Landry is not going to come out and catch 112 balls this year. I mean, I don't want to burst nobody's bubble. Even if Landry was here in front of me himself, listen, Jarvis, man, it ain't going to happen for you this year. And it's not because of a lack of talent. It's not even necessarily Tyrod's fault, which I'll get to Tyrod here, shortly. But with Jarvis Landry, the situation he was in Minnesota, they didn't have a whole lot of other options, right? Kenny Stills was hit and miss. Devontae Parker hit and miss. Never really had a tight end of any worth. So Jarvis Landry was the one consistent in that offense, and he got peppered with targets. There's going to be so many options in Cleveland behind, Carlos Hyde running the ball. He still got Corey Coleman and Josh Gordon to compete with there at the wide receiving group. It's not going to be due to a lack of talent for Jarvis Landry this year. It's going to be due to a lack of options in Cleveland. All right, so beware with Jarvis Landry. He's going to be drafted way high because of the offense he's going to be playing on. And it may be a little bit too steep of a price for you to pay. Right now I have Jarvis projected right around the 60 to 70 catch mark, right around 700 yards and a handful of touchdowns. So, put him where he's worth. He's not he's not a top 10 wide receiver this year. He's more of a top 20 to 25 wide receiver this year, so just don't overpay for Jarvis Landry. Still love what he's capable of, but, temper the expectations just a little bit. All right, Allen Robinson next on the list, AR-15. I think he's going to wear 15 as a Bear. Can he wear 15 as a Bear? I'm pretty sure he's going to wear 15 as a Bear. But listen, Allen Robinson going to Chicago is puzzling to me. I don't necessarily understand his reasoning behind it. I would imagine there was way better situations to go to than Chicago. And listen, it's nothing against Chicago. Nothing against Chicago at all. It's just odd for me, though, for Allen Robinson coming off an injury, going to a team who struggled to throw the ball last year, who has in turn got a lot more options in the offseason with the additions of Taylor Gabriel, Trey Burton. They've got Cam Meredith coming back from injury as of right now. He's still a Bear. They got a lot of options in Chicago, but they don't do a lot of throwing in Chicago. I mean, there was times I can remember last year they're barely giving Mitch Trubisky 10 throw attempts or pass attempts for the game. And I'm sure that's going to grow this year. Trubisky's, 1 year older. He's got a little bit of the rust, beat off. He's ready for some of the NFL. But listen, he's not going to go out there and produce the numbers that you're expecting for Allen Robinson. You're remembering the Allen Robinson from a couple years ago in Jacksonville. And listen, yes, I understand. He did it with Blake Bortles there. So Mitch Trubisky is capable. I just don't see those huge numbers for Allen Robinson. And I think his ADP is going to be reflected off of his name value a lot. Right now I don't think Allen Robinson, in my mind, is even a top 20 to 25 wide receiver, especially coming off the injury. I mean, he's gonna be rusty. He's not in game shape yet. There's no chemistry between him and Mitch Trubisky. And like I said, between all the options, they still got Tariq Cohen. They still got Jordan Howard. They're going to run the rock when the weather gets cold in Chicago. They're not going to be throwing a ton. It's the Windy City, y'all. What can you not do successfully, consistently in the wind? Throw the ball. That's why they run a lot in the wintertime. It's just something to think about. Allen Robinson, good player. I'm just not overpaying yet. All right, number 5 on the list there, Carlos Hyde. I mentioned his stats earlier in the video when I said last year he had a ton of work with 240 rush attempts and 88 targets with the 49ers, but I wouldn't be expecting that big of a workload yet. Now listen, the draft is coming up here pretty soon. We don't know exactly what is going to happen with the Browns pick. Sounds like they're going quarterback. More than likely Darnold at the number 1 spot. But what's going on with that number 4 pick? Is it going to be Saquon Barkley? Is it going to be somebody else? We don't know for sure. So depending on what they do there is gonna affect Carlos Hyde. But like I was saying earlier, with all the options they have in Cleveland, they're not going to have to use Carlos Hyde as much. He's going to be great. Duke Johnson's still there, great pass-catching running back. He's going to eat into some of Carlos Hyde's work. Hopefully, and the only thing you can really hope for Carlos Hyde is that this offense has been, built up so much that maybe they'll actually have a lead in the second half of games, and they can actually lean on the run game a little more than in years past. But listen, we don't know that yet. I mean, everything on paper looks great, but the games aren't played on paper. They're played on the field on Sundays and Thursdays and Mondays. But, until we actually see it, I wouldn't buy into the hype of it. They're going to be a good football team. Are they going to produce good fantasy numbers? Skeptical. All right, I'm skeptical. Carlos Hyde's going to be a great option. He's going to be a solid RB2 this year. I'm not going to throw him into that RB1 category quite yet. I mean, yes, Tyrod in past years with Shady has a lot of dump-off passes, but that's kind of built into the game plan there in Buffalo. I don't think they're going to be building in a bunch of dump-off passes to Carlos Hyde with the likes of Jarvis Landry, Josh Gordon, and Corey Coleman out there running routes, and David Njoku. It's just so crowded. Don't expect a ton from Carlos Hyde. He'll be right around the 200-yard or 200-carry mark, and he'll bust right around 1,000 yards. So he's going to be a solid back for you, but he's just not going to be this overall number 1 stud that a lot of people are thinking that he might be. All right, next, Jimmy Graham, number 6. And these are in no particular order, by the way. I just realized that I'm naming them by number. This isn't in any order. Otherwise, Jimmy Graham may have been lower on the list, thinking about it. But anyway, Jimmy Graham. I am not on the Jimmy Graham bandwagon like a lot of people this year. In a few of my past videos, I've talked about Jimmy Graham and I don't dislike him. I mean, the dude's good. He's a good dude. He seems like a good dude. I like Aaron Rodgers. I like the Packers offense. I just don't know if I like the two of them together. It just doesn't seem right. Everybody thinks that he's going to go out there with Aaron Rodgers and catch 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns, like he did with Drew Brees forever ago. And I'm just not seeing it yet. Yes, with Jordy leaving, that helps his red zone value. And that's all I think he's really going to give you this year is red zone value. Yeah, he may end up with 7 to 10 touchdowns, which makes him relevant, which makes him a top 10 tight end in the league. But he's not going to go out there and have all these huge games. Actually, it was on YouTube. And hey, if you're watching this, I'm talking about you. So if I remembered your name, I would say it, but I don't. But hey, I like talking to people about it. He said that Jimmy Graham is going to average 100 yards a game with Aaron Rodgers. And no, he's not. Rodgers has never averaged that much to a tight end. Jimmy Graham himself has never averaged that to a tight end. It's just not going to happen. All right, he's going to be right around that 500-yard mark, and he's going to get all of his points off touchdowns. So if you want a touchdown-dependent tight end, somebody you can maybe get in, round 7-ish, once all the big names are off the board, he'll be solid, but he's just not going to be this superstar that a lot of people are making him out to be. All right, next on the list, Mr. Sammy Watkins, Mr. Underutilized 2017. Still don't understand what happened to Sammy in L.A. He looked healthy. He looked good when he played. When they threw him the ball, he was just like a decoy for 15 games. I think he had like 2 good games. But Sean McVay, what happened to Sammy? I was kind of excited to see Sammy in that offense. He was just never used. Robert Woods took over, and Sammy was just forgotten and then just dropped like a bad habit, and now he's in Kansas City. And that's intriguing. I kind of like the addition of him there with now Pat Mahomes, my homeboy at quarterback. That's what they brought him there for. They got Patrick Mahomes to throw the ball. That's probably why they let Alex Smith go, because they know they're going to have all these weapons, and Smith wouldn't be able to feed all of them properly. All right, so you got Tyreek Hill. You got Sammy Watkins. You got Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt, Spencer Ware comes back. I mean, they have a ton of talent on offense in Kansas City, and they're going to be used. I really, really, really like the addition of Sammy Watkins. Am I going to overpay for Sammy this year? Probably not. But Sammy is probably somebody that's going to drop down some lists just because of the poor year that he had last year. A lot of people that are playing fantasy football here come 2018, they're not going to pay attention to that. They're going to look at where he's at in the draft list. The preloaded draft list on whatever site you go to, Sammy's going to be a little bit farther down, and it's a name that you need to look at and possibly take a round early just so you can make sure you grab him. Do I think he's going to come out and have 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns? Probably not. The yardage, maybe. I can see Sammy breaking 1,000 yards. I don't know if there's too many, DBs out there on the same team that contain both Tyreek and Sammy. You kind of saw it with Tyreek last year. He was pretty much every other week. He was a boom or bust, and then Kelsey was mixed in there. A little bit of the same. But Pat Mahomes likes to throw the ball, and he's got a rocket for an arm. So look for them to be throwing the ball a ton more in Kansas City. But then again, it's Andy Reid. He's going to use his running backs. But are they going to be what they were last year with Kareem Hunt? Probably not. You saw how Kareem Hunt broke down. They don't want to, break down second half of the season like they did last year. So look for them to throw the ball a little bit more this year in Kansas City. Sammy Watkins is very, very intriguing. I'm kind of on the Sammy bandwagon. All right, Michael Crabtree is next. I almost started off by saying I got crabs, and that would have been horrible to put on YouTube. I couldn't imagine the comments I'd get below. So I'm not, I guess I already said it. Nothing I can do about it now, but listen, I don't got crabs, just so you know. But Michael Crabtree going to Baltimore. Ugh. I don't think I like that one. It just seems kind of I mean, we haven't seen a real successful whiteout, in Baltimore in a while. I mean, Mike Wallace was decent 2 years ago. And Jeremy Maclin had, every once in a while would have a game. But overall, I'm just going to pass on almost everybody in Baltimore. There's just nothing there that really appeals to me. Do I think that Michael Crabtree is washed up? No. But I think Michael Crabtree's numbers have kind of been skewed lately because of the amount of touchdowns that he got in Oakland. He wasn't having a lot of great games. He was being force-fed the ball and still wasn't, a top elite wide receiver. And now in the red zone, the dude is money. If you're inside the 10-yard line, Michael Crabtree is probably going to be getting the ball. Who else are they going to throw it to? It's going to be Michael Crabtree. So he's going to get some touchdowns this year. Is he going to have a ton of yards, though? I don't see much more than about 750 yards or so for Michael Crabtree. So when it comes to him, I would say his value is definitely lower than it was with Oakland. I wouldn't be taking him any earlier than about wide receiver 25 to 30-ish, maybe even a little bit later. I'm just not on the Michael Crabtree bandwagon, and you probably shouldn't be either this year. All right, let's talk about another Brown, shall we? I mean, it's the third one in one video. Let's talk about him, though. Tyrod Taylor in Cleveland. I like Tyrod Taylor a lot. I've just told you to temper your expectations for Carlos Hyde and Jarvis Landry, but do not temper them when it comes to Tyrod Taylor. I may get a little bit of hate for this, but let me tell you this. Tyrod Taylor will finish the year as a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Is it going to be pretty? No. At times it's not. But he's still going to have the rushing yards. He's still going to have right around 400 yards rushing. And look at all the talent he's surrounded by. He can just throw it up in the air and somebody's going to catch it on his team. I mean, Corey Coleman, Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku. Great targets. At Tyrod's, it's just crazy to think about. Tyrod Taylor having that many targets. Look what he had in Buffalo. Exactly. Not a whole lot. Shady out of the backfield. You had a couple games of Zay Jones last year. Charles Clay was relevant for a few weeks. Jordan Matthews. He didn't have hardly anything in Buffalo to compare to what he has, 2018. He's going to have a great year. Is he going to be up there with the huge guys like Aaron Rodgers and, we talked about Kirk Cousins and stuff? No, he's not going to have that many passing yards, but he's not going to turn the ball over a whole lot either. Look for Tyrod Taylor to have a great year. I'm going to put him right around 4,000 yards. Yes, 4,000 yards almost for Tyrod. 400 yards rushing and a boatload of touchdowns. Tyrod Taylor is somebody that you can wait way late and grab, and he could win you your fantasy league this year. All aboard the Tyrod train. All right, lastly here on my list, let's talk about Case Keenum. Case Keenum had a great year last year in Minnesota. Every week, everybody was writing him off. Oh, he can't continue. He can't continue it. He continued it. I mean, they went down in a blaze of glory there at the end of the playoffs, but Case Keenum had a great year. I mean, he had very low expectations, after Sam Bradford got hurt, and he killed it all year long. And because of it, he got sent to Denver. Actually, he chose Denver. And I don't blame him for choosing Denver. Listen, Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas are great options for him. He just left an offense that had Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, and he's going to another decent situation. But here's the one difference. Denver's backfield is a mess. Who is the leading running back in Denver? Okay, some people are going to say C.J. Anderson. Some people are going to say Devontae Booker. But listen, nobody's been really relevant in that backfield for a long time, and they're going to throw the ball in Denver. John Elway, calling the shots, wants Case Keenum to sling that thing. And you know what? He's going to. He's going to have a great year. Way more opportunity for him to throw more in Denver than he had in Minnesota. Look how much Minnesota ran between Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon. He doesn't have to worry about that now. Yes, Denver's offensive line is not the greatest, but all that's going to do is a lot more quick slants across the middle, quick dump-offs to the running backs that are playing. Case Keenum's going to have a great year. And where he's being drafted, I believe he's in the high 20s for quarterback. Yeah, you can wait to the late rounds, grab yourself Case Keenum, and have somebody that you can count on every week. Denver's defense is not what it was, so they're going to give up some points, causing them to have to throw more in the second half. I'm all aboard Case Keenum this year, especially at the price you can get him. If that price creeps up, I mean, you guys are smart. You're going to look at it. Don't be taking Case Keenum all crazy early or nothing, but if you need somebody because you missed the big guys late, hold off, grab Case Keenum or Tyrod Taylor. Either way, you're going to be covered at quarterback. All right, guys, those were my top 10 players on new teams, and there was a lot of others. I mean, listen, there's people all over the place. I could have done this, and this video would have taken 2 hours, but I don't want to keep you guys for 2 hours. I'm talking about the big hitters on offense. 2 quick notes that I do want to mention. I think Mike Pouncey, leaving Miami and going to, I almost said San Diego. He's going to the Chargers, but they ain't in San Diego no more. That's going to be something big that people need to pay attention to. That's a big help for Melvin Gordon. He's a solid center. He's going to shore up that offensive line. He's a big signing. And lastly, Ndamukong Suh just being signed, going to the Rams. A great sign for them. You got Sue and Donald on the same line. That is terrifying, especially for the teams of the NFC West. Right now, I am, praying for Sam Bradford because down in Arizona, my Cardinals twice a year have to deal with that, and I'm worried for his life. Those guys are going to be, ridiculous on defense there with the Rams. So I just want to throw those guys' names in there real quick, but hey, I appreciate you guys listening. If you have other players you want to talk about, hit me up below. I would gladly go back and forth with you. Love to have a conversation with you guys. Any other players you want to hear about? Let me know. I got lots of videos coming, but I got no problem taking some time out and talking to y'all. I appreciate you guys once again. Make sure you're hitting that like button, commenting below, and subscribing. I appreciate all the support, guys, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.